Hello, I'm Larry Bell from the Defense Energy Support Center. I'm the program manager for the Fuels Automated System, commonly referred to as FAS. On February 2nd of this year, 1 Army and 7 Air Force test sites began processing to the FAS Enterprise server. This event represents the culmination of a development effort to replace the service accounting systems and procedures as directed by the Department of Defense. We consolidated fuel accounting to absorb service fuels into a single stock fund managed by the DESC. This video will give you an overview of this consolidated accounting system, and we will demonstrate the base level software interfaces. In addition, we will address those procedural changes required by FAS. These touch upon security requirements, web access procedures, changes to the Fuels Control Center, and the new FAS Enterprise server. These process changes have been tested by the service representatives who are co-located with DESC, as well as by personnel at the original test sites. We know you will find the new system easy to use. However, we need your analysis of the process, the base level user guide, and your input as to how we can make it better and easier to use. Please ensure that you report all system and functional issues and recommended improvements to the FAS Help Desk in Atlanta, Georgia. With so many bases coming online, we ask that you use the Help Desk number for problem report and technical or usage questions. Use email when you cannot get through to the help desk by phone and when making suggestions and providing comments. The help desk will be compiling the issues and recommendations and forwarding them for review and resolution to the appropriate action office. We thank you for your continued support of this program as we strive to give you better tools to do your critical support mission. Now on with the overview.
Hello, I'm Jim Manziera. The portion of the video you're about to see will give you an overview of the Fuels Automated System Enterprise Server. We call it the FAS for short. After the video, if you have any questions, please contact the help desk and they'll get the answers right back to you. Thank you. This is a brief overview of the Fuels Automated System and the Enterprise Server. Our intent is to highlight specific changes that you need to know base level to make the system operate. The items we're going to cover are the specific security overview, which deals with passwords and how to get them, and permissions. We'll give you a general FAS overview and then talk about some functionality and how to process information. One of the most important parts of this briefing that we can't stress enough is to get customer feedback. Mr. Bell talked about it earlier in his introduction, and I can't stress it enough either. As far as security, our system is controlled by a series of passwords. In order to get a password, each user must complete a DLA Form 1811. This form is then sent to the service control point, and the service control point applies the permissions which allow you to view the enterprise server. We've mentioned this earlier, and we'll talk again more further on in the video, but there are basically two sides to the enterprise server, the seller side and the buyer side. The seller is the inventory control mechanism, the buyer is the person who pays the bills. The service control point applies the permissions which allow users to go into their specific screens and allows them either to view it and only view it, or to view it and write, change data, review and challenge, and those types of things. Once the service control point is done, it sends the 1811 up to the FAS Security Manager, and the Security Manager assigns a password and notifies the user via email of both the password and the logon. How do we get the DLA Form 1811? It's very simple. Open a browser and log on to www.feshub.desc.dla.mil. Once you get to the web screen, you'll notice that there is a link, and that link allows you to download the DLA Form 1811. Once you download it, print it, and fill it out. We provided instructions in writing in the package that accompanied this video. We've also shown it here on the screen, but these are the blocks that need to be filled in. What's very important for us is both email addresses and phone numbers. If either the service control point or the FAS security manager has questions about the privileges that you require to do your job, we'll contact the supervisor and verify them. One other thing I'd like to highlight about the DLA Form 1811 is to make sure that your base level TASO signs the form. These are the FAS security points of contact. These representatives are the individuals who assign your permission level, and the FAS security manager, once she receives the forms, will send you an email with both your login and your password. Now I'd like to give you a brief overview of the FAS system. You may or may not know, but FAS collects all fuels-related transactions. It collects them from DoD locations and also non-DoD locations. It provides a detailed inventory visibility. It allows you to look at your local FCC and compare what you have at your base to what's on the enterprise server. Based on what information is on the enterprise server, we will create detailed billing and obligation information. Obligations are transmitted to service legacy systems, and bills are created through the Interfund system. The hub does that. In our old world of doing business, we had systems such as, for the Air Force, the Standard-Based Supply System, or the SBSS, which created the obligation, and DFAMS, which created the Interfund bill. In our new world, we have one thing, and that's the enterprise server. Additionally, the enterprise server will allow you, a buyer, to review your transactions, and if you find them to be incorrect or suspect, to challenge them. Once you challenge a transaction, that transaction is taken off your account, and those funds are allocated back to DESC, and DESC will conduct an in-depth review to validate that transaction. Additionally, the enterprise server allows query capabilities for both the inventory and the Account Explorer users. Well, how do you process to the FES? The key to processing to the FES is using Netscape. This system employs public key encryption, and as such, Netscape 4.7 or greater must be installed on your machine. I want to highlight, do not use Netscape 6.0. Netscape 6.0 is currently not approved for use to the FES server. Once you've downloaded Netscape, we're going to walk you through accessing it via the internet, and then we have separate sections later on in the video which identify seller information and buyer information. Also, we have a separate section on review and challenge, and then we do some limited queries for you. To download the required Netscape, point your browser to this DNS location. I'd like to point out that Netscape can be downloaded for any FAS computer. At this location, you'll notice that we ask you to register, and what we're doing is we're downloading Netscape and also identifying the requirement for the DoD site license. Once you've downloaded and installed Netscape, you can go to the enterprise server by simply typing in this DNS address. A word of caution. Since the enterprise server uses public key infrastructure to encrypt transactions, you must ensure that you type HTTPS and not HTTP. Your initial login to the server will require you to download a site license for public key infrastructure. These next several screens, which I'll run through quite quickly, will briefly show you how that's done. You can notice on the site certificate the level of encryption we're using. We recommend that you accept the certificate forever. You do have the opportunity, should you choose so, to accept it once and only once. However, if you do not accept it forever, you'll have to download it each time. Once you've completed downloading your site certificate, select Finish, and you'll be allowed to go into the FAS Enterprise server. The initial screen of the FAS Enterprise server shows you the three areas which we use. The fuels and customer inventory is where you can view transactions and also challenge anything that's suspect. Customer support allows you to get frequently asked questions and also provides you a quick link to points of contact. And then finally, we have a web manual which is available for download to the fuels community and anyone else who has a password on the enterprise server. Logging into the enterprise server, we do have a DBA notification screen which tells you whether it's working or not. At those times where the server is down, this screen will tell you that. This is the login screen where you use the username and password the security manager sent you. Upon logging in, the first screen you arrive at is your individual screen. In this case, we logged in as the 62nd Mao. The next thing you do is enter a DODAC. You can enter a DODAC either by typing it in the DODAC field or selecting the drop-down menu. DODACs listed in your drop-down menu are the DODACs which your permissions allow you to view. Again, select the DODAC. At that point in time, you can go to your inventory ledger. The idea of an inventory ledger on the hub is to ensure that the ledger in FCC and the ledger on the enterprise server are the same. You can also download transaction reports, and you can do limited queries. From a buyer standpoint, you can look at your fiscal year reports, you can look at your aviation and ground fuel purchase reports, you can review and challenge, and you can also do limited queries. Later on in the video, we have a separate section on review and challenge. To summarize it here, the buyer is responsible for reviewing their transactions. These transactions are transactions which occurred around the world. Any transaction that's been challenged is not billed to the buyer. The transaction is sent back to DESC, it goes into a suspense account, and DESC and the seller jointly verify the transaction. Once the transaction is verified and corrected, the seller will resubmit the transaction, and that will process back through the enterprise server as a separate transaction. Additional information is provided at the back of the user's guide on the business rules used to verify a challenged transaction. We've gone over the buyers and the sellers and what's important to you, how to get you to the website, how to look at your transactions in an overview. And as I said before, additional segments are provided later on in the video. I would now like to go over the site feedback sheet, which is available on the hard copies of the documentation provided with this video. It's extremely important for you to let us know not only what you think about the system, but any recommendations you have to make it better. We've taken a lot of time and effort to make it easy to use and to make it comprehensive. Anything that you have as far as criticisms or recommendations are truly, truly appreciated. Who submits feedback? Well, everybody. Every FAS customer, anyone with a logon. Here are your points of contact for the FAS Enterprise server. You'll notice the only phone listed is the FAS Help Desk. The FAS Help Desk is the single point of contact for every problem from every user. The service reps, the FAS test team, the alternates are all available and support the FAS Help Desk. Our Help Desk tracks calls from cradle to grave, and they also provide reports, status, and management information critical to the successful completion of the program and the successful support to our customers. In summary, we provided a quick overview of the FAS system, how it's changed, and what you need to know to get up and running. Following segments will give you additional information, and as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let us know through feedback or calling the help desk.
Hello, I'm Ed Hudak, and today I'm going to talk to you about the new FCC 1026 build. A lot of you have been using 1025, and today I'm going to talk to you about what's new in the 1026 build. What I'm going to talk about today are the 8 new screens, the public key infrastructure of PKI, Netscape, eLoad, rejects, and challenges. The 8 new screens that have been modified in the new 1026 build are the request, the receipt, the issue credit for both aviation and ground fuels, the shipment, determinable gains and losses, physical inventory, and the regrade screen. The addition of the 4 OED fields, shipment number, order number, batch cargo number, and the carrier number, were included specifically for Oracle Energy Downstream, or OED. These fields, while you'll not be able to see all 4 of them in any one particular screen, will be there in some manner, either the receipt, request, issue, and so on. The other changes to the screens is the elimination of the SBSS, FAMS-A, and the DFAMS boxes, with only the DESC box being the only one that will be checked. You see by this example here on the screen, an example of the receipt screen, and in the receipt screen you'll notice that there are the 4 OED fields: the batch cargo, the shipment number, the order number, and the carrier code. You'll also see that there's a final code and the lone DESC box. PKI, or public key infrastructure, is a method of transmission for secure transmissions to the fuels enterprise server. This public key infrastructure satisfies Federal Information Processing Standards Publication, or FIPS 140-1, security requirements for cryptographic modules. The issuance and management of these certificates are maintained at the FAS Enterprise server. Netscape version 4.7 supports the PKI initiative with 162-bit encryption, while Internet Explorer only supports 128-bit encryption. You'll still be able to use Internet Explorer as your default browser for email and Outlook, but for transmission to the FAS Enterprise server, you're going to need to use Netscape 4.76. What does this mean? It means a secure method of data transmission to the FAS Enterprise server. eLoad is replacing eConnect as the method of transmission to the FAS Enterprise server. eLoad uses PKI, the public key infrastructure, along with Netscape to send the transaction securely to the FAS Enterprise server. Setup of eLoad is done within the FCC program. In order for eLoad to work properly, you need to make sure that the URL and the browser paths are set up in the FCC setup. Within the FCC setup, you'll see 2 new fields, the URL field and the browser. In the URL field, you're going to place the path for the FAS Enterprise server. The URL, or Uniform Resource Locator, is just another name for a web address. In the browser, you're going to have the path to Netscape within your local machine. Once you do this, you will hit the Enterprise button within the Fuels Accounting module in order to start your fuel session with the FAS Enterprise server. Now let me show you the step-by-step process you'll take in sending those transactions to the server. Once you hit the Enterprise button, the browser in Netscape will start up. It'll take you to the fuel system web application. From the application, you'll select the fuel, customer, and inventory. You'll get a message stating that currently the FES is operating fine. Select OK. Then you can go ahead and type in your user ID and password. Once the browser comes up, you next have to enter your DODAC in the Enter a DODAC field, or select the DODAC or your DODAC from the Select a DODAC field. Once you've entered the DODAC or your DODAC, the name of your location will appear in the top left-hand corner of the browser or the web application. Within the toolbar, you'll see eLoad. Take your mouse and select eLoad. In this browse, you'll notice that there is a message stating that you may also copy the FCC data transactions.account SND and paste it into the file field below. You must do this in order for PKI security, and there are a couple methods to do this. You can either highlight the path, right mouse click and select copy, place your cursor in the field, then right mouse click again and select paste, or you can select browse and select the path where the FCC program is located. Once the path to the account.snd file within the FCC data directory is loaded into the field, you'll next hit the upload button to send those transactions to the server. Once the transactions are successfully sent to the server, a message will appear stating that. After which you can go ahead and download your error files. Once you've uploaded your file to the server, you can then retrieve your errors by downloading them from the download the error file. And it's identified with your DODAC.err with the .err extension. The retrieval of the rejects is accomplished using eLoad. Once you retrieve your errors, to view those errors, you need to go back to the Fuels Control Center accounting module in the Review Errors button. Through the Review Errors dialog, your errors will be uploaded, and there you can view your rejects and challenges. When they come into the dialog, they will appear in red. Double-clicking on a transaction will turn that transaction from red to blue, from which time you can go ahead and change or edit that transaction or correct the error or view the challenge within the memo field on the transaction itself. And now I'm going to demonstrate what you do when you want to retrieve your errors through the FCC and also your review and challenge. You'll go to the accounting menu. Under the Review Errors button, you'll click it. Your errors will appear in red. To view those errors, just double-click on any one of the transactions. And in the memo field will appear your errors or a challenge response from the FES. In order to correct that error, all you need to do is make the appropriate changes. Take the X out of DESC, click OK, and save and exit. Once this is done, your transaction will turn blue, indicating that this transaction is ready to go to the FES. Remember, go ahead into the transaction, make your corrections, take the X or the check mark out of DESC, select OK, save and exit. Remember, do not load this upgrade until told to do so by your major commands.
In this segment of the video, we're going to briefly go over the FAS Enterprise Server. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the key elements of the web screens. You'll notice we've logged in as Hill. I've logged in with my permissions. My permissions allow me to see all of the DODACs which are loaded on the Enterprise Server. These are the buyers. When you log in, your privileges will have either just your DODAC, or if you're a Major Air Commander in MACOM, you may have a range of DODACs you can look at. If you require additional DODACs, contact your service control point or the help desk, and we'll work with you to get that. Next, let's go to the seller information. The seller information is based on what did that base, in this case Hill Air Force Base, do. We do it and track it by month. You'll notice that the ledgers, just like the local fuel control center, come up, and you can see all the business you've had for the month. The intent of this is so that you will use your local FCC ledger and compare it against the Enterprise Hub ledger. You'll compare your requests, your receipts, your sales, your credits, so that we know, DESC, that all the transactions that you have posted locally are in fact on the Enterprise server. Why is that important? It's important because the Enterprise server creates both the obligation and the bill. We no longer process to SBSS in the Air Force. We no longer process to DFAMS. As long as your ledgers are correct and consistent, the system will work, and it'll work fine. Very quickly, I just want to point out some of the key processing elements. You'll notice that on the 1st of December in 2000, I did not send up a physical inventory to the Enterprise Hub. Therefore, that's blank. When we do send up a physical inventory, it populates it with a number in black. The number in red is your book inventory, and that's merely calculated from what's posted before. Any item that's hyperlinked, you can drill down into. These are where you see actual sales transactions. You'll notice on the sales transactions you have your transaction ID, the vehicle number it went to, in this case an aircraft, an F-16. Your customer ID is a combination of the buyer's DODAC and the organization that that aircraft belongs to, in this case the 466th Fighter Squadron. The quantity of fuel issued, the bill number is actually the interfund bill number that this transaction is listed under. It's listed under bill number C002 for Hill Air Force Base. You can identify the transaction by the MILSTRIP document number. You'll notice in these sets of transactions that I've highlighted, all of them have the same MILSTRIP document number. When you see your bill, these transactions will be rolled up into a quantity and a dollar amount on the interfund bill. We track the transaction dates, when it actually occurred, the date it processed in FCC, the date FCC processed it to the Enterprise server, and then the date the bill was actually cut. These transactions are consistent for ground and aviation. Let's go look at some diesel fuel. In this case, on the 7th of December, the transaction list shows the transaction ID number, the vehicle ID or the reg number of the vehicle type, which if it's populated in FCC, it will be populated in the Enterprise Hub. The customer construct is a bit differently. For the Air Force, the customer construct is the owning DODAC or buyer and the org code that actually owns that vehicle. Everything else is the same. Now let's look at some buyer information. Remember, seller is the inventory owner. DESC owns the gas and base level fuels manages that for DESC. We manage fuel in inventory based on gallons. The buyer's information is based on dollars. That's the amount of money that the interfund bill will decrement from the owner's account. Let's go into November and we'll see the actual transactions, and we can actually sort them based on the customer. And at Hill there are 4 squadrons, the types of vehicles. For aircraft, this is the tail number. For ground fuel, this will be the vehicle registration number. Type of vehicle listed, browser, F-16. Again, that's information that comes up from FCC and is populated locally at your base. Product codes are what's loaded at Hill in aviation. You can choose either aviation or ground fuel. The actual screen is set up to where fuel is sorted based on where the fuel was purchased. DoD purchases are at any DoD location, Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marine Corps base. Credits are simply defuels Non-DoD purchases are those transactions where aircraft or vehicles bought fuel outside of a DoD location, at a commercial airport, at a Coast Guard location. We sort them for you to make it easier for you to review them and, if needed, challenge them. Underneath the purchase type, you'll find that transactions are listed in either blue, black, or red. Blue is transactions that have already been billed. You cannot challenge those transactions in the enterprise server. If you have a problem with your Mills bill, those must be challenged through the Mills bill system. The black transactions are transactions that are valid, i.e., they've been posted from an FCC location and they have not yet been billed. On any hyperlink, as usual, you can drill down into the transactions, and you can see that for these transactions at Hill, many of them were actually sold to or by an Army location. The product code is JP8. The vehicle is an aircraft. The customer, again, is Hill Air Force Base, the 466 Tech Fighter Squadron, the quantity in gallons, and then a dollar amount based on the current standard year price, or if it's a transaction from a previous fiscal year, the previous fiscal year price. The purchase location is where the gas was actually lifted from. The processor is who owned the FCC version that put the transaction into the enterprise server. And again, in this case, it's an Army location. The mill strip document number, and the bill number, the transaction sequence number, a supplementary DODAC if needed, the fund code, signal code, and then the transaction dates, as we discussed earlier. Transaction date, the date it actually occurred, the date it processed through FCC, the date it posted to the enterprise server, and then the date it's billed. As I said earlier, these transactions have not yet been billed, so there is no bill date and there is no bill number. We have a separate segment where we talk about review and challenge, so I won't go into those here. Now let's look at some of the support tables available to the users. The support tables listed cover airports. If you have an aircraft that either purchased fuel at an off-site location, or you're wondering, where can my aircraft purchase fuel? What you do is you go to the airport support table, type in this instance, I'm going to type in Germany, hit the query or the download button, and the difference on the query and the download is simply the query will generate a screen in your browser. The download generates a file that you can actually download to your hard drive. So we'll query it and call it up in the browser. And you'll see that these are the locations in Germany that you can actually receive fuel from. Addresses and organizations allow us to research, if needed, a questionable DODAC. In this case, we'll type in FP 4479 from Accord. If I had a question on whether or not a DODAC was valid, I'll type it in and we see that not only is it valid, but it's in the system, and these are the points of contacts for various pieces of the fuels operation there at McCord. Product codes are all the DESC product codes that are available to use on the FES server. In this case, I'll type in JP8. You'll see it's turbine fuel, the current standard price, and the stock number. Again, merely a reference table. A real important part of these support tables is rejects. Rejects are those transactions that have attempted to process from FCC to the enterprise server, but for some form or fashion did not make it. Why didn't they make it? Because there is a lookup table within the enterprise server where information is validated against. For example, on this receipt, we had an error because we had already reversed a transaction. You cannot post duplicate transactions, and you cannot post transactions with incorrect data. In most cases, the error file will tell you what's actually wrong with your transaction so that you can correct it at base level. Next, let's look at the budget support table. The budget support table allows the buyer to establish targets and track them based on their obligations and their purchase programs. No target is loaded for Hill. In this demonstration, let's load one. You'll see no matching records are found. Click the Add button. To add your target information, fill out the screen, click Submit, and your target will be created. Another support table is BOS, or Branch of Service. For the Air Force, BOS are the old customer identity codes used in the Blue Hub. Additionally, we have an aircraft table, which allows you to check whether or not an aircraft is owned by a DODAC or still in service. And we have a link to transaction types. In the Air Force, the old TID codes. In the purple server, or the FES, those transaction types are now called use codes, and all services use them. Finally, we have our ever-popular feedback form. Please use this feedback form regularly. Anything that you have that is either a problem or a recommendation can be annotated here and sent to us. The next major area I'd like to cover is management information. Under management information, your buyer can see both your percent budget reports and your purchase reports, as well as viewing your challenge transactions. At any time you need additional assistance, click the Help link, which takes you to our user's guide and also provides you the telephone numbers for the Atlanta Help Desk. The eLoad link, which is listed here, is covered separately in the FCC 1026 build, and I won't go over it again. Our credit card reporting is a function that will be turned on in the near future, but is currently not available to those bases on the production hub. Well, that concludes the brief overview of the FAS Enterprise Server. Following segments of the video will deal with challenge and review and ordering. If you have any comments or suggestions, contact the FAS Help Desk. Thank you for your support. Welcome back. Now I'd like to talk about ordering. Base Fuels processes the orders through FCC and the Enterprise Hub. Orders are done on a permission basis only. I'm going to do a demonstration on the test hub. I have no permissions to order through the production hub. Only base level fuels folks have the permissions. If you question whether or not you're allowed to order, whether you have the right permissions, contact either the FAS Help Desk or your service reps, and we'll make sure that those questions are cleared up and the correct permissions are applied. As you can see on the screen, I've logged in as Langley. From the first screen, you select Utilities. That takes you into the utility menu, which includes a link to ports. Once you go into ports, you'll see that your contract line items are listed. All you need to do is pick one. We've demonstrated here on the right-hand side that there are active orders placed, and that's what they're going to look like when we're done with the demonstration. Those active orders are individually managed, and you can click on them and drill down in case you have any questions. For instance, this order was created on the 31st of January for a 5 February request for 10,000 gallons. Well, let's go in and create a brand new order. I'm going to log in now as Mildenhall. As you come up on the screen, again, from the first screen, you select the Utilities menu. Once again, go into Ports. You'll notice Mildenhall also has active orders. But let's go and create one, a non-capitalized order, and let's create it for March of 2001. The create date is the date that you actually process the transaction. Today's date is the 9th of February. The start delivery date is going to be 1 March. The end delivery date is going to be, for the purposes of this test, the 9th of March. The total quantity, I want 8,700 gallons. This is a direct delivery order to a non-capitalized customer. Therefore, this order will not only call the fuel forward, it will also bill the customer. So the first thing I put in is the fund code. The fund code for ground fuel, in most cases, is 30. If you have any questions about that, consult either base supply or call the help desk. The second thing is the signal code. Always A, unless directed otherwise by the Major Air Command. We're billing Mildenhall directly, so we're not going to put a supplementary DODAC in, and we're going to bill the civil engineers. Let's say 901. And I want to type in my memo record, and this memo record goes not only to the contractor, but also comes back to you so that you can use it to manage these orders. I'm going to type in, this is the March order for CE Building 864. I select OK, and you'll notice there's another order with a delivery range, date range, that is partially or completely contained in the date range you specified. What does that mean? That means you've got an open order out there. If you want to call fuel forward over this period of time, use that order. So I'm going to change my date range. I'm going to make it April 1st to April 9th. I'll change my memo. And I select OK. You'll notice my order's been posted. It's really that simple. Now, when you go back into your initial order screen, you'll see that the order actually exists. It's the first one on the top, April 1st through April 9th. I click on it, and it's the order in the memo field. This is the April order for CE Building 864. A word of caution. We in DESC would like you to place orders at most on a monthly basis. When you place an order, you're actually taking funds and setting those funds aside. The system will allow you to place orders over multiple months. We ask that you not do that. Now that I've placed an order, I need to call the fuel forward. I'm going to select a February line, and you'll notice that I've ordered during the period delivery beginning on the 10th of February, ending on the 25th. We've put aside or set aside money for 1 million gallons. I want to call forward 500,000 of that. What does that mean? That means that the vendor will get an email that says, deliver 500,000 gallons of fuel. You certainly can call them and let them know it's coming. And if you like, negotiate a delivery date. We actually recommend that. The closer ties between the base and the vendor, the better the support will be. On this call forward, I'm going to select February 12th. And I want it to be delivered on the 15th, 500,000 gallons. You'll notice I don't use any commas and no decimal points. To call the fuel forward, select OK, and you'll see that it's actually been posted. Once you return, you'll see that now you've got a call forward requisition in there. The vendor will get an email, he'll bring the fuel, and you'll post the receipt in FCC. That's really all there is to ordering. It's a very easy system. It's one that can be managed locally and observed at DESC. If you have any questions, call the help desk or call your service point of contact. A final word about non-capitalized orders. The Enterprise Hub will validate the signal and fund code for the org code that you provide so that they can be billed correctly. Now I'd like to go into capitalized orders, or orders for fuel to go into your bulk tanks that you manage. Now let's go to Hill and we'll order capitalized product. Capitalized product is fuel that goes into your tanks. I'll select a capitalized product CLIN, and you'll notice that there is no signal code, fund code, supplementary DODEC, or organizational code. We'll select an order for February. Beginning the 9th of February, ending the 20th. Total quantity, 50,000 gallons. Again, no commas. And the memo, deliver to building 1587. Select OK. Order's been posted. Now that it's been posted, I want to call it forward. And again, I select the date. I select desired delivery on the 10th. I want 15,000 gallons of the 50,000 on order. Deliver building 1587. Successfully processed it. And you'll see that it's on the screen. As with non-capitalized orders, an email will be sent to the vendor, and an email will also be sent to you. Contact the vendor, talk to him directly. Feel free to do that whenever you need to. This has been a brief overview of both capitalized and non-capitalized ordering. If you have any questions, contact the help desk or your service representatives. Thank you. Welcome back. In this next segment, what I want to do is I want to take you actually to the FAS website. The site we're going to is the Test Hub. I want to go over challenge and review. What we're actually going to do is go in and challenge a transaction that we've put on the test site, and you'll see that it's very simple. As you can see from the screen, I've logged in. We're on the test site because I have no privileges to challenge documents on the real actual production site. Only base level users and authorized MatchCon representatives have privileges to challenge transactions. No one at DESC can do this. It's very important, and I stress again, that those permissions must be requested on the DLA 1811. If you have any questions, please call the help desk. You can see I've logged in. I'm Jim Manziera. First thing we do is we enter the DODEC. We're going to go to Langley for our demonstration. Challenges take place from the buyer side, the people who actually pay for the fuel. We'll go into the buyer information, and you'll notice, as we drill deeper into the website, that the information that's available is by both aviation and ground. In this demonstration, I'm a buyer from Langley Air Force Base. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to look at my November transactions, and I want to possibly challenge or review them. Once I click on November, I actually drill down into the transaction set, and I see that there are 3 columns. First column is DoD purchase, which is fuel bought on DoD bases. That can be Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marine Corps. The second column is credits. Those are defuels in an Air Force terminology, anytime a return to bulk is made from an aircraft. The third is non-DoD purchase. Those are the transactions that are uplifted at commercial interplane sites, either off an interplane contract or off a non-contract location. Within the three columns of DoD purchase, credit, and non-DoD purchase, you'll notice that dollar values are reflected in blue, black, and red. The blue dollar values are those transactions which have been billed through the interfund bill system. You cannot use the FES server to challenge those transactions. Those transactions must be challenged through the Mills bill system. The second column are black transactions. Those are transactions that are waiting to be billed. The third column are in red. Those are the transactions that have already been challenged. If we drill down into this $92,000 worth of purchases, we find that there are individual transactions, where they're at, how much they are, the gallon amounts, and also who processed them. Your job as a buyer is to look at these and say, well, do I think my aircraft went there? Do I know my aircraft went there? Do I think my aircraft didn't go there? If you believe that your aircraft did not receive that fuel, a challenge is very simple. You click the box on the left-hand side, pull a drop-down menu, and decide why you're challenging it. In this case, let's say we believe it's the wrong amount billed. The drop-down menu is selected, come to the bottom of the screen, and select Challenge. Once you challenge your transaction, you'll notice that it's gone through the system and it says it's been processed. You can challenge multiple transactions if you want, or one at a time. That's basically up to you. Now, once we go back into our November transaction sheet, we see that the transaction I just challenged for $1,400 is moved to the challenge screen. That $1,400 is no longer on your account. The dollar value, $1,458.20, has been returned back to DESC, and they'll go through the bill validation process. If you have any additional questions or for more information, please consult the FAS User's Guide. That concludes the video. We hope you found it informative and helpful. If you have any questions, please call the help desk. They'll get you an answer. Also, there's one thing we'd like to ask from you. We need your feedback. Not only things that are wrong with the system, but also we need to know what you think can be done to make it better. Throughout the briefing, we've talked about the forms of feedback: emails, faxes, telephone calls. Please take a minute. When you're using the system, if you see something you like, let us know. If you see something you don't like, let us know.